And welcome back to Weekly Briefing. Yes, we are here with Senator Bill Cassidy, Dr. Bill Cassidy. He is chairman of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee in the U.S. Senate. And I was reading up on you before our meeting here, and I didn't realize it, but you were a doctor in a public hospital for 30 years where you treated uninsured patients. Is that right?
Yeah, I taught medical students, did medical research, took care of the uninsured, the Medicaid patient. Medicaid often paid so poorly they couldn't go anyplace else. It was a real privilege to do it, but I'm glad I'm here now.
30 years, that's a long time.
It is a long time, but it was incredibly rewarding. So I have the students that I've taught who are now doctors in the fullness of their career come up and, hey, you're the one who taught me about diarrhea. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be remembered for my diarrhea lecture. But on the other hand, if someone has diarrhea, you certainly want to have had a doctor who's been well trained on how to treat it. And I think I trained them well.
I know that you are somebody you've taught medical students. You are chairman of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. And something that is, I think, near and dear to your heart is this issue of educational choice. And I think that you are very gratified because it appears that included in the tax provisions of the big, beautiful bill that's rolling along are some provisions that you inserted, you authored with regard to educational choice. What's going on?
Yeah, so we want students, we want the mother or the father, but typically the mom, to have the power to have the choice of where my child's going to get the best education. What happened during the COVID pandemic, public schools shut down. Long after it was known it was safe to reopen, unions kept them shut. The parent was trapped. The child was trapped. And there are some folks who said, wait a second, why don't you go to the private or parochial school near you? I don't have the money. What this does, our Educational Choice for Children's Act, it allows folks to put money into a scholarship fund and get a tax credit, but that scholarship fund goes to help that working family, that middle income family, afford that private or parochial school. One more possibility, one more choice for that mother to make for her child to get the best education.
So this is a situation where it's aimed at middle class or working class families so they can take advantage of choice in education, right?
Yes. Yes, and go back to that COVID pandemic. The public schools were shut down, and so they had no place to go but. Now, for full disclosure, my wife is the CEO of a set of charter schools for children with dyslexia. I'm a big believer in the charter school movement and want to take care of kids with dyslexia. This, though, is for those kids who didn't even have access to a charter school. And so how do we get them someplace where they can get the best educational opportunity? And we think our ECCA legislation is that way.
So this is essentially a tax credit, right?
Correct.
So whoever contributes to this would receive a tax credit, and these funds would then be available to various families to take advantage of? Is that
And it's a diversion, if you will, of tax dollars to specifically help families get the best education for their child. I like that. If a child is trapped in a poorly functioning school, we lose the potential for that child to become whatever she or he may become. You mentioned that I taught medical students. Some of my medical students, of course, they're doctors, their parents were doctors. Some of them came from different backgrounds. I saw the potential of a child coming from a different background, a less culturally enriched background, through the power of education, achieving her dream to become a doctor. We want that for every child to achieve their dream. But if you're trapped in a poorly performing school, that dream, it's a lot harder to become a reality. If you have the opportunity to go to a better school, you can fulfill your dream for yourself, for all of us. Because every person that achieves their potential enriches us all.
Is this, would you say this might be, in some interpretations, the civil rights issue of our time?
I think so. I think so. If you think about, it's empty words to say that everybody has equal opportunity if you shut off the ability for some to get a good education. Without a good education, the possibility of becoming successful in a legal way is much smaller. By the way, in a legal way, kids who perform poorly, kids trapped in a poorly performing school with less opportunity to achieve in a legal way are more likely to either waste their potential or to turn to crime. This is an anti-crime method as well. It enriches society in a positive way. It keeps society from being, I don't know, subtracted from by kids not only not reaching their potential, but being diverted into something which is less positive.
Sir, not only are you you're chair of the health committee, but that's education, it's also health. And I know one of the things you've been paying a lot of attention to is this issue of children and irreversible chemical and surgical changes, I guess. I think HHS just recently put out a report on this, some of these processes. They were very critical of them. What do you think of that report that was just put out by Health and Human Services, and what did it say? And
so, John, let's put a point on what you're talking about.
Right.
We're talking about trying to gender transition,
right,
sex change,
right,
operations or sex change procedures for adolescents and children.
Right.
And there is this kind of increasingly disproven theory that if an adolescent is confused about sexual issues, that it's going to help their mental health to transition them to do a sex change procedure for that adolescent.
Does that work?
No. And the report that just came out from HHS is they signed there's like minimal evidence of any that this actually helps the child's mental health. In fact, there's evidence it may worsen a child's mental health. And there's clearly kids who go through this and then they have deep regret afterwards, but if they've had surgery, the surgery is permanent. And but let's face it, it's a moneymaker for hospitals. I hate to be cynical.
This is about money? I mean, are there hospitals that just are that desperate to get people in the door that they would do this kind of stuff? I'm taking that as a yes. I'm a little naive about the medical profession.
You know, keep working backwards. If there's no financial reward, sometimes other rationales melt away. But the fact is that when you, out of England, they've done this research, HHS just did, the evidence that this is for the benefit of the child is either not existent or extremely weak. And so I don't think Medicaid should be paying for it. Public dollars should not be paying for this.
Has Medicaid been paying for this?
In some states, Medicaid pays for this.
Wow.
And so why should it? Answer is not. So we investigated that in the health committee. We found that. There's some hospitals that are kind of vague. There's allegations that they say they're not, but they actually are, and they bury it in different codes. There's been whistleblowers saying that. So I think this is being uncovered. Frankly, the evidence is not there. It needs to stop.
Related to this, I think your committee has announced an investigation of the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. I had no idea there was a group like this.
Yeah, and basically it's a hype group that purports to be scientific.
What are you guys trying to do?
We need to have I'm a doc. First, you got to put the welfare of the patient first. If the evidence is lacking that this sort of thing is beneficial to the patient, it needs to stop. Now, there's always going to be this financial gain that kind of motivates people, or an ideology. I believe it so much, I don't care what the evidence shows, because I believe it so much. Somebody who themselves might be transgender, and therefore they become an evangelist for this. Stop. The evidence is not there. It needs to stop. Indeed, there's evidence that it's harmful.
Very good. Senator Bill Cassidy, who is chairman of the Health Committee, Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions in the Senate from Louisiana, Dr. Bill Cassidy. Sir, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.